Everyone, in today's video, we are going to go over my I'm going to tell you 6 favorite tulips to purchase right now to plant in the fall. And I'll talk about 5 roses that are doing really well in my garden right now. And what else? Just a little chit chat. So let's go ahead and get started. It was my birthday week, turned 59, last year of my 5th decade. And it was a pretty quiet birthday. My husband and daughter were here earlier in the day. We went out to lunch, and then my husband left on a trip, and my daughter met some friends because she's only in the Nashville area maybe 5 or 6 days a month because she's a flight attendant based out of Charlotte. So it was really good to spend the morning with them. I did get a very expensive watering can for my birthday. I got a Hall's English watering can, the 2-gallon size. Let me go grab it. Here it is. Can you see it? Okay, so this is an English watering can. It's really beautiful. I saw Ben Anderson, I think, had one. He does a lot of rose reviews, and I just wanted it. And then, but I thought of it as more of a luxury item. I didn't even know if you could get them in the US. And then I was over at my girlfriend's and she had one. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's what I'm going to ask for my birthday. So that's what I did. And what I love about it is the rosette. The beautiful rosette. It makes just the softest spray, and with the long handle, really easy to get at the base of the plant. Now, most of my roses are on irrigation, but I planted some boxwoods, and those are not on irrigation. I really want to maybe back up a little bit so I'm not. That sun is in such a strange place. Maybe I'll twist over here. So I'll twist sideways to get out of the sun. But anyways, I love the spray. I love how it feels watering. Again, this is the 2-gallon size. I probably could have done with the 1-gallon size because, again, most of my plants are on irrigation. So it's not like I need to carry around a lot of water. Yeah, I don't know why. I think a smaller one might have been the better size for me. But if you have a lot of plants to water, you don't want to be filling it all the time. So the 2-gallon size is really nice. Okay, besides the watering can, I also ordered a couple of tablecloths for our French little bistro set from April Cornell. She has been flooding, or their advertisements have been flooding my Facebook page for years. If you're listening to this on your phone, it'll probably start flooding your Facebook and Instagram pages. But anyways, got the most beautiful tablecloths from their sale selection. They have so many beautiful tablecloths, and I don't really do a lot of big entertaining. I have a couple of floral print tablecloths already for my table inside. So I just wanted something, so if I'm sitting outside with my cup of coffee or having a little pastry or something on my bistro set, I can have a really cute tablecloth. So these were all on sale. They're always having a ton on sale. My favorite is the Rose Hip print, and I got it in 2 colors, a light blue and the ecru. Of course, the blue and white is my favorite. My carpet is blue. My spring pillows, or my swing pillows, are blue and white. Anyway, really pretty. I get the 54-inch size square because I can drape it over my coffee table. I can use it as a topper on the bistro set. But then the Rose Hip is really pretty, and I got that as a little collection. So I got the larger tablecloth, I got some napkins and things like that. But then I also tried a 70-inch round. Doesn't quite hit the floor. It's probably maybe a foot off the floor on my table. But I got this violet print. Yeah, it's really cute too. But they also had a lot of Christmas prints on sale, so I might order 1 or 2 so I have them come Christmas time. But I do want to start decorating my little front porch a little bit more. But of course, that means I need to get rid of all the junk that's on my front porch that my poor husband, yeah, he's not thrilled about. But yeah, I do need to just kind of clean up my front porch just a little bit. Okay, so let's start talking about the gardening topics that you might be interested in hearing. First, I'm going to talk about my 6 favorite tulips to plant, and this is really just based on what I grew for the last year or two. Um, I had raised beds for the last 2 years here in this house, and I did have tulips both years. So I do have 2 years growing in Tennessee with these varieties. And then last year I had a lot in the front, in the ground. And this year I may do a small section in my raised beds just to make sure I have some for cutting, in case I don't want to cut from the front yard. But the majority of them will be in the front yard because I had these beautiful raised beds of tulips, and then I was like, well, nobody's getting to see them. There were a lot of mixed tulips in there. So now that my front yard is longer, I kind of extended it out just a little bit, a little more forward. So I have, well, over here it's probably 40 inches, but at least 24 inches pushed back on this one side that I want to actually put the tulips and daffodils and maybe some annuals. I'll still put 1 or 2 rose bushes, but I don't want to fill it with roses. These are some of the tulips that I am purchasing there. Now, I've purchased from a wholesale group, but I did look around at prices and everything, and the 2 places that I found with really good prices on tulip bulbs, John Scheepers, Scheepers, Scheepers. I think a lot of these varieties are bred by the Scheepers family, or at least some of them. When I was going back looking at the tulip breeders, I was like, oh, is that the name of the company that is selling them in the U.S.? And they're very reasonable prices, I feel. A lot better than, let's say, Breck's or some of the other well-known bulb providers, but their prices are a little bit higher. The other one is Longfield Gardens, another one that I thought had very reasonable prices if you buy 10 or 25 or 50 bulbs at a time. Okay, so let's start. If you're not super familiar with tulips, there's early bloomers, mid, late bloomers. I have found that it's good to have a mix. You don't want one area to really just die back and then another area here. For me, I kind of am going this year to put the early bloomers and the late bloomers kind of in the same spot. The early bloomers that I like have taller stems. They're overall just a little bit taller, so I can put the late ones in front. So when the early ones die back and I still want to keep the greens up, then the late bloomers will be in front. In Tennessee, where I am, with our clay soil and our environment, I had good luck without buying pre-chilled bulbs. I am going to use the 6-inch spacing in my front garden beds this year. So I'm still not getting the pre-chill bulbs. So we'll see how that works. 2 years ago, I might have got them and stuck them in my garage refrigerator. Maybe I'll try that too for a couple of weeks. But we seem to have enough cold weather this year to get a lot of them to bloom without being pre-chilled. But if you are in a warmer climate, you definitely want to pre-chill them at least 10 to 14 weeks. So, 2.5 to 3 months in your refrigerator. Okay, so let's start. The first bloomer that I had was Triumph. These were jumbo pink. They grew really long. I could cut them. I put them in a vase. They were in the vase for like 2 weeks. The Triumph is kind of the traditional shaped tulip, and then they kind of open up during the day and then they close back up. Super long lasting, all kinds of colors. So you can, I liked the pink, but you can get the Triumph in a lot of different colors. I do think they are more likely to come again. So I am going to just keep them in the garden along that back edge of where I plant my tulips. The other one that's supposed to be really good coming back the next year are the Impression series. It's a Darwin hybrid. It's also tend to come back more often. Again, a little similar shape, maybe a little bit bigger bulb size or flower size, bloom size. That's what I was thinking. I love the pink and the salmon Impression. So to me, the pink is a little more corally, and the salmon was a little pinker. So I kept thinking that I must have tagged them wrong until I looked them up, and I was like, okay, that's just the colors. But the Impression series, really long stems, great for cutting. Again, perfect if you're arranging your tulips to putting it in that back row. They'll be the first to come up, and then when you get your later ones that are a little bit shorter coming up in front, you can give those time for the greens to die back. Okay, so those are the early to mid bloomers. And then the next ones I have, I know are definitely considered single, annual blooms. The doubles and the parrot and all the fancy ones that look like peonies, those are definitely one-time blooms. I mean, you might get one or two come back if you leave them in the ground, but overall you're not going to get the same flush that you get the first year, and they might only be like 6 inches off the ground or something like that in future years. One of my favorites was a tulip called Dreamer. Double blooms, looked like peonies. I had them in a raised planter, and they just were so pretty. Now they also will start blooming. You'll get the actual closed head, and it looks like it's only going to be this tall. But overall, they're only like 12 to 14 inches, but they will stretch. And I think I got them about the 12 inches, which really is not that super tall. Really pretty, definitely ones that I'm going to spread out in the front of the bed. They were the ones that people walking by would comment on how much they loved the tulips in my garden bed. So really a showstopper tulip, but short. Okay, the next one was one I've grown for the last 2 years. This one, when I posted on Instagram and Facebook, got the most comments, and that's the Aveyron tulips. They totally look like peonies. I mean, I had people comment, well, those aren't tulips. Very matter of fact, those aren't tulips. Well, yes, they are. They're beautiful double tulips, look like peonies, super, super gorgeous. Yeah, I love them. The third one, I don't have very many pictures from my garden. I do have them kind of mixed with something else. It's called Copper Image. I did have a collection of the Copper Image planted alone in an unwatered bed, and I think I only got like 3 blooms come up. Then I had them in a garden mix, and that's where the ones that I actually could pick came from. And they were just so beautiful, and I could tell because I had them in both places. I could identify them out of the mix. But the Copper Image, again, super cupped, beautiful peony-shaped blooms. And so those were all, the birds are so loud, those were all late bloomers, right? Mid to late bloomers. And then my last to bloom, I think I didn't have any other tulips blooming. I did leave them in the ground. We'll see if they come back. It was in the backyard. But the Mount Tacoma, also double, really fluffy, look just like peonies. They actually were blooming while my peonies were starting to bloom. And beautiful pure white. So I really did like those. I think I read someone said that theirs came back, year after year, even though technically the doubles aren't supposed to. So we'll keep them in the ground. But all of these beautiful ones, definitely were like more that 2 feet. No, not 2 feet. 14 to 16 inches tall. So they were not the longest, but of course you cut them deep or you just pull them out by the bulb, and you can get a really long stem for arranging if you want to bring them inside. But they also were so beautiful outside. So I definitely would buy enough that you can leave some outside and take some in. Of course, the bloom season is really short, right? Maybe 3 weeks. So if you think you want to cut 5 to 7, if you're just taking it in for yourself and you only need 5 to 7 blooms, maybe 3 times during the cut season, getting 25 blooms will give you, or 25 bulbs will give you enough to cut a couple of times if you want to keep them in the ground and cut, you might want 50 bulbs. So that's kind of how I looked. I like at least 50 bulbs now of my favorite tulips, so I know I can cut them without feeling like I'm stripping them from the garden and still have them to take inside. Okay, next I'm going to talk about my quote, roses of the week. And I'm going to give you 5. Of course, having over 200 roses, 180 varieties, I definitely have more than 5 that are blooming really well. But these 5 were just doing great end of July, beginning of August. Lots of blooms, healthy shrubs. So these are the ones that I'm going to talk about. Okay, the first rose is Paris de Yves Saint Laurent. It's a Mayond rose. It's been around for a while. It was bred in about 2010, but it's a new rose for me. I just got it in May from Heirloom Roses. So mine's still relatively small. I don't even think it's 2 feet. Oh no, it's about 2 feet tall now. It's having its little growth spurt, but it is covered in beautiful blooms, kind of a pale pink, maybe raspberry tinted, just gorgeous. It is a hybrid tea. Before it fully opens, it does have that high center, but then when it opens, it's a different shape than, let's say, the hybrid teas that you buy at the grocery store. Just really, really, really gorgeous. Mine is still very faint fragrance, but it's supposed to have a really nice, more intense fragrance, which can take 2 to 3 years to develop. And this is how they describe it. Strong and luxurious, blending citrusy notes with fresh rose and hints of raspberry jam. Some of my favorite things, like a fine French perfume. So it's going to get to be about 3.5 feet to 5 feet tall. All shrubs in Tennessee, because we have a long growing season, usually hit that high end. So I'm expecting it to be about a 5 foot tall, 5 foot tall shrub. And it's a repeat bloomer all summer long. It's named for the fashion designer Yves Saint Laurent. Second rose is also a Mayond rose. This one was introduced in about 2018. It is my Moonlight in Paris. I've talked about it before. I think I've even might have put in some shorts with me holding some of their blooms. Covered in blooms. It blooms in flushes, so it'll be covered in blooms, and then it'll be a few weeks before it's covered again. But I have 2 of them now, a second year and a first year, and they're kind of alternating their bloom cycles, which is really nice. I don't know if I will try and prune them maybe 2 weeks apart in the spring to try and keep that alternating bloom cycle so that they're always there. I love this rose. It is creamy. I'm just looking at it right now. Creamy with a hint of pink, and it's very pearlescent when the sun comes from behind. In the evenings, it just glows. It's so iridescent. That's what I meant, iridescent. Let's see what else it says about it. So apricot peach blooms, light to moderate fragrance. That's true. Soft tea rose though, beautiful fragrance. It says a compact rounded shrub about 2.5 to 3.5 feet tall and wide. It definitely grows a little bit more upright. Is that only 3.5 feet? I feel like I would say mine's at least 4 feet tall. I would have to run out there with a tape measure. But the blooms grow in clusters, so you can just cut a spray of the blooms. Really, really beautiful. And had so many sprays, you could cut 3 or 4 of them and still have a ton on the shrub. Excellent disease resistant. I mean, mine's looking great all summer. I will say early spring, we had ton of rain. I did have a little bit of black spot on it, but, come July, I'm looking at it right now. I mean, I might see like a handful of leaves with black spot, but overall, just a really healthy, beautiful shrub. The shrubs that I think have a ton of black spot, I mean, they're naked right now. Because all the leaves have fallen off because there's so much black spot. So if it still is overall a green shrub in July, early August, doing good for me. I guess when I just wrote the names down, I didn't really pay attention to the breeder, but the next one on my favorite list right now, or my what did I call this? My 5 roses of the week. That's what I'm calling it. Is called apricot candy. It's also a Mayond rose. So Mayond is just really going up there. And breeders that I love for Middle Tennessee. So it was introduced in 2006 in the U.S. It is also a hybrid tea. It is a apricot, gold, soft pink, just really, really beautiful. It's not, again, not the typical looking hybrid tea. My shrub is covered with it, covered with blooms. I actually don't really cut them. I just kind of let them open up on the shrubs. Super popular with the pollinators. Lots of the stamens are showing kind of an open center. It does have a moderate sweet fragrance. It says it will get to be 4 or 5 feet tall. Mine is about 3 feet tall right now because, again, it is a first-year plant. It says it's a classic high-centered hybrid tea form. I've got it out here in my berm. I guess I just don't notice it. I don't walk out along that driveway berm for cut roses early, so I don't really see it as that classic hybrid tea. Okay, so my camera overheated, so I needed to come inside, and I was talking about apricot candy. So let me just finish up with the last 3 of my roses of the week here inside. It says it will get to be about 4 to 5 feet tall. Again, Tennessee, it's going to be 5 feet at least. Anytime there's a range, because we have a longer growing season, our shrubs tend to be at the tall end of the range, if not taller, if not add an extra foot. But where I have it located, if I needed to put a trellis or something behind it for support, it would be really easy to do. Right next to it, I have another apricot-ish kind of yellow. They say it's apricot or perfect peach, but in the hot sun, it tends to be a little more pale yellow or peach, kind of a very faded peach. It almost looks yellow or creamy. And that is my David Austin's Rolled Doll. This rose, it's a first year rose covered in blooms, in clusters and in sprays. And they stay that cupped shape, that perfect, beautiful, cottage garden look. They are not shattering as fast as like a Claire Austin or Wollerton Old Hall. So they just is gorgeous. I have it right next to my apricot candy. That little section is just divine. It says it's a compact, rounded shrub. I definitely think it is rounded. A lot of my blooms, they grow from the top, to the bottom. And it says 3 to 4 feet tall. Mine's probably 3 feet tall right now. I anticipate it getting a little bit taller. It has a light fragrance. I really don't notice much of a fragrance. It's named after the beloved author. And when you purchase this rose, if you purchase it from David Austin, part of the proceeds goes to support his charity. So that's really nice. And then my last rose is not a Mayond or a David Austin. It is a Weeks rose. And I have several Weeks roses. I purchased them a little bit later in the season. They are doing so great. So I'm definitely going to be paying attention to roses bred by Weeks. And this one was introduced in 2022. It is, did I say it was called Raspberry Cupcake? I can't remember if I said the name of it. So it's the Raspberry Cupcake. Easily, readily available everywhere. I bought mine at Lowe's. Well, I have 2 of them. So I bought one of them at Lowe's. You can find it at Home Depot, Walmart, your local nursery, maybe even Costco. It is a deep raspberry pink color, covered in blooms. The outer petals are a little bit light, more of a silvery shade, but it is one that when I'm in the house and I look out my back window, I can see it just covered in blooms. Makes me very happy. Very fragrant. If you're looking for fragrant roses, if you're one of those that I'm not planting anything that's not fragrant, you definitely want to look at Raspberry Cupcake. Says it will get to be about 3 or 4 feet tall. I would say mine are about 3 feet tall. And it does have those old-fashioned, those double cupped blooms, the peony-shaped blooms. So those are really beautiful. Something that's easily grown for beginner gardeners. That's it. Those are my 5 roses of the week. I hope you enjoy this new kind of format with little clips on a bunch of different things instead of just kind of walking through my garden. We'll see how it goes. I do have more of these planned out for the next couple of weeks. And yeah, if you enjoyed this, leave me a comment down below, share it with your friends, hit that like button. Though really sharing, comments, watching the video to the end, those are things that help as I transition from a beauty channel to a gardening channel to make sure that they start suggesting my videos out to more viewers like yourself. As always, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.